Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night wherever you are. It's been a lot longer than I said I would upload one of these, but things get in the way. Life has other plans. So it's a bit of a offhand topic, out of the pocket topic, random topic I just pulled out of the air. And it's still on a bit more of a vague, more of an abstract concept that I would say. Last time we talked about loneliness, which was the impetus of making this channel. Today we're talking about the biggest thing of all, purpose. If we understand the purpose of this channel is to be sort of an echo chamber for me, then what's my purpose? Is my purpose to be the voice of an echo chamber? And I think I'm treading on thin ice by saying a topic like purpose, because if you're listening, then you'd have to understand that purpose is a very powerful word. From the very dawn of humanity, ever since people were able to think, they've been thinking about purpose. I think, therefore I am. Well, if thinking was your purpose, then you would be. But that's not the whole point. Thinking is more of a means to an end, and you have to know what your purpose is. And purpose is, well, it's reaching that point where you repeat a word so many times it starts losing its meaning. But it's important to realize that it can be many things: goals, missions, meaning, objective, dreams, ambitions. What do you want in life? And let's try to take another didactic approach to this. So there's two ways to think about it. There is no purpose. That's not a good argument, because even if there is no purpose, your brain will still make a purpose. Where there is no purpose, where there is no meaning, one is automatically made. And to the best of sounding like someone from a show that became quite popular at one point, even though life is meaningless, in the end of the day, just by living, you create meaning. Your joy, your utilitarianism. Your purpose is defined by your emotions at that point. And saying life has no purpose is just sort of a offhand way of saying, I don't have any defined goals or values. I'm too chaotic, perhaps bipolar, to be laid down to one meaning. The other way to think about it is that there is a purpose. That in itself breaks down into two. A purpose is endowed upon you. There is a purpose, and you have to find it. Or the other way, everyone has their own purpose, and you have to find yours. In the same way, it's hard to say everyone's got the same purpose, because if it did, then we'd all be single-cell organisms floating in the atmosphere. But we're not. Everyone has their own purpose. And whether it's divine, whether it's practical, in the end of the day, it comes down to the same thing. There is a purpose, and you have to find it. Sort of like a Laplace argument, trying to find out an answer by just means of exclusion. You realize that yes, life has to have a purpose. If it didn't, why live at all? Why not just end it? But you don't, because you have a purpose. And then you have to split it down into two basic things: the organic and the spiritual. Not the spiritual in the sense of divinity and God, but organic as in there's you, there's your brain, there's your forebrain, there's your medulla, there's your basic ganglia, there's your limbic system, there's your medulla oblongata. And each portion of your body, and then there's your adrenal glands and hormones all throughout the body, and each one plays a different role. Each one gives you different provocations. Your medulla oblongata makes you breathe, walk, breathe. I was thinking about breathing, but I just stretched the word. But yes, it makes you breathe as well, but breathing is more a function of somewhere else. It makes your heart beat to some extent at a certain rate. Your limbic system is your emotions. It gives you fear, joy, hate, love. And it's where perhaps more of your intrinsic emotions come from: greed, fear, lust. And then there's your forebrain, which sort of has to, you know, juggle all of these things to find meaning throughout all of it. Which one do you want to do when? Create a problem solving analysis, an algorithm of, you could say, machine learning to this extent. Which thing is more valuable than the other? But it would be true to say that the spiritual aspect is a bit different. The spiritual aspect, you look at something and you think about it for a few hours and you say, wow, I wonder how that got there. You look at a bush and you see insects crawling on it, ants marching at the dirt line, earthworms eating away the grub, and you wonder, wow, that's profound. And you can stare into space and say, wow, we're so small in the universe. But that spirituality, it's hard to say whether it's truly divine. It might just be your forebrain trying to juggle all the emotions and put it against a canvas. The exterior meeting the interior. And at that interface is you trying to figure out what's going on. But that's all, it's all tangential. You have to come back to the main point, which is, in the end of the day, what's your purpose? I myself have been struggling with myself. Is my purpose in my life my job, my joy, being creative, or just progressing humanity? It's hard to know. And some people at their olden years would probably say that they only realized their purpose near the end of it, that their purpose was just what they ended up doing. Whether they spent their 80 years of their life healing people, making things, entertaining people, making people laugh. By the end of it, they say, well, that's what I did, so I guess it's my purpose. It's coming back to that same thing about there is a purpose and it's split down to two, the divinity and the organic. Many people would agree that the organic function of your body isn't really there. You listen to it when it's loud, but when it's not loud, when it's slumbering, when your belly is full and your mind is at ease, that voice is quiet. It's not always present. It's just the louder one. The more thoughtful one, your forebrain, your spirituality, your conjuncture, your thinking mind, you're a thinker of thinkers. That's the portion of your brain that's always there. It's quiet. So when you're hungry, it sort of gets out competed in a shouting competition, but it's always there. So it's your brain always thinking. So I think that's what's really there. That's why people say that when you reach puberty or adolescence, you should spend a few minutes every day just sitting there thinking of what you're doing with your life. And I think that's one of the issues with the modern era, where you so much distract yourself that you're always confused what you're trying to do. Are you wasting your time on this phone, listening to this video, scrolling through YouTube? Or is life a waste in the beginning? There is no reason to make the best out of every minute. And that too in itself is a give and take in its own way. If you think life, every minute, has to have meaning and purpose and be fruitful, then you'll feel guilty the moment you take a step back just to savor the moment. You'll be drowning in guilt, something I had to sort of deal with my own self. I'm not achieving enough. I'm a failure. And the only reason that you feel that way is because there's this constant drive to do more, that every moment has to have purpose. Alternatively, you can take the other way and say, well, there's no purpose, so me taking my 6-hour break through life is fine. And both ways are pathological, so you have to find the balance. But most of the times, most people don't. Most people, to some extent, are some degree of bipolar. Granted, they're not bipolar, they act it. Sometimes they're quite energetic, getting lots of things done, achieving one take after the other. Other times, they've slowed down. These waxes and wanes can be 10 years long, a year long, every week, every hour even. So it's hard to know. Everyone's unique. So, if that's not where purpose comes from, how would you know what yours is? Well, there's no answer to that. And that's why they say you should spend a few minutes every day figuring out what you're doing. Was that all that time spent on your phone worth it? Was it some sort of feng shui meditation, re-energizing, trying to detense? Or were you just sort of caught in the motion and just watching time fly? A lot of people in the current generation could think of that. Did you spend 4 hours on TikTok because you wanted to? You had something to learn. It was something that really meant something to you. Or did you just realize by the end of it that 4 hours had already gone? Maybe it's that point that you should probably consider deleting the app. Or, if you know what, you can make an account, start uploading videos, and make money off it yourself. Who knows? But you have to think about it rather than just do it. Just doing things is its own problem. Just thinking all the time is its own problem. You have to think and then do eventually. You have to take your own leap of faith. Even now, in this point of my life, I'm still in conjuncture, stuck between a rock and a hard place, thinking of what the real purpose I should be doing. Should I take a leap of faith and do the best I can? And if I miss my mark, so be it. Be content with what I have and live with the consequences? Or should I just be comfortable in my own position, accept life for what it is, meaningless, and say, you know what, I've done enough. I'll just keep going on like this. And always have that niggling feeling in the back of my head that I'm not really doing the best that I can. Which is the better life? I think about this on a daily basis almost. And only when I'm distracting myself through the motions or day to day, through the monotony, through work, through joy, through YouTube, all these things, that I think, I don't care. I'm just happy the way I am. But that doesn't always last. Sometimes you've got moments when you catch yourself, quiet moments, and you have to think, what am I doing with my life? Why am I making this video? What am I trying to tell people? What's the purpose of all this? Well, it comes back to that first argument. There's no purpose. You shouldn't feel indebted to the fact that you have to find a purpose or the purpose you're doing is the right or wrong thing. You've only got 80 years, at best 90 on this planet. Just sort of living in this loop of trying to fulfill something, you're not going to get that way. Majority of the people who do research don't get Nobel Prizes. Majority of the people who fly airplanes don't become astronauts. Majority of the people who sing songs don't break the record labels or the top 100 even. Majority of the YouTubers don't make a majority living. Majority of the scientists aren't Neil deGrasse Tysons. Majority of the people who devote themselves to religion don't live divine lives. Majority of the people are just normal. That's where the word comes from. Majority. And you should take comfort in the fact that you're just like everyone else. You're not special. And that means all the good and bad things that it does. You're not burdened by responsibility. And you're not tied down by insignificant and sometimes significant sadnesses. Noblesse oblige. Those who have owe it to do things for others. History is littered with these sort of sayings that scholars do and philosophers say. And these philosophers and scholars, what I've noticed is that they're tools for their own time. You listen to Marx when the economy isn't good. But when the economy is good, you don't even know the guy's name. You listen to Nietzsche when your life's miserable. But when you're happy, you don't care what Nietzsche did. So, philosophy is just a tool, and it can be construed in its own ways. Everyone's a terrorist. You just have to make it sound like they are. Everyone's a saint. You just have to make everyone else seem much worse. So, again, digressing, coming back to the point. My purpose in life is to just be healthy, be smart enough, and be spiritually and emotionally sound. There's a good thought process I had, and if you made it this far into the video, then congratulations, because this is the only sort of self-help information I can give. Your life is like a pyramid, sort of a non-existent pyramid. At each point at the base of the pyramid is a different thing. The mind, the body, and the spirit or the soul at different points. That creates your base, which is your physical form. And the more you feed into these, the higher the pyramid becomes. And that tip point is your closeness to divinity, purpose, or whatever you want to call it. That high point is just your highest point, your peak, the best you can be, your joy. So if you focus on one thing, if you say you just have to be strong, healthy, but you don't exercise the brain or your spirituality, you're going to end up being imbalanced. Your peak won't rise, just one of your lesser parts will, and you'll still be caught in this cycle. Alternatively, if you just study, learn more, feed your brain, but your body withers and you lose spirituality, you become a mad scientist. And if you focus on spirituality, you don't really look at the facts and you don't really exercise the body, then you become a philosopher. Someone who I would argue just screams in the wind. Philosophers do change the world, but so do scientists. And the biggest people who change the world, people might not like me saying this, but I think fascists. World War II is kind of a big change. So, not a good one, but it's a change. And if you feed all three of those, which requires good discipline, exercise the body, exercise the mind and your spirituality, then your peak will rise and your purpose will come to you naturally. And that's what I try to do. That's what I think other people should do as well. And that's sort of a good rule of thumb to figure out what's wrong with your life. If you just don't feel right, maybe you're not focusing on your body, you're not listening to it. If you don't feel right, maybe you're not thinking about all the intricacies. If you don't feel right, maybe you're not focusing on the creative spiritual aspect. You've got to study and learn to some extent. Read articles, read books, learn history, go to university, get a degree, one of these things. You've got to physically work the body. Go for a marathon, go for a jog, learn a sport, or just do some sort of static sport like swimming or cycling, or just go to the gym. And eat healthy on top of that as well. And then you've got to be a bit spiritual. Think about things. Do something creative. That's a bit more vague. You can learn an instrument. You can apply yourself to your job. You can sort of do some writing or this sort of YouTube thing I'm doing. It's just an experiment essentially. And then maybe that way you'll find your purpose. But then again, I work out. I go to the gym. I study like anything. And I do something to my spirituality. But I haven't found my purpose yet. And I think that's the whole paradox of humanity, is that you'll keep talking and thinking, but it'll keep changing. I guess Rick Sanchez was right. The first argument was correct. Life has no meaning. And I think the best way to live is to make yourself flexible, to make your meaning bow to you, so that I'm not the voice of an echo chamber. You're the echo chamber to my voice. Thanks for listening.